Have you ever really stopped to think about what separates the wealthiest 1% from everybody else? It's probably not what you think. It isn't just luck, and it's definitely not about just working harder. The real difference is how they think. See, the biggest thing holding most of us back from building wealth might just be our own brain, running on the same software as 99% of the population. So let's get into it. We're going to unpack the 6 mental principles the top 1% use to build real, lasting wealth.
And that right there is the heart of the problem we're talking about today. This quote from entrepreneur Natalie Dawson, it just nails it. Most of us are stuck in a loop making decisions that don't really serve us, all because we're just adopting the same thought patterns as everyone else around us. Our goal today is to figure out how to break that cycle.
So, what does this thinking trap actually look like in the real world? Well, you can think of it like a fork in the road. On one side, you've got the 99% mindset. This is where you're constantly getting bogged down in daily drama, confusing a buzzing phone with something that's actually important, and, making emotional, knee-jerk decisions. But on the other side, you've got the 1% mindset. It's a totally different world. A calm focus on things that grow over time, thinking about the big picture systems instead of just the symptoms, and making smart bets based on actual data. We're about to walk through 6 principles that are going to help you jump from that left column right over to the right.
Okay, first up, perspective. This first principle is basically your number one tool for breaking out of that short-term emotional loop we all get stuck in. It's an incredibly powerful way to reframe all the daily challenges and stresses that can so easily knock you off your game. And the tool for this is something called the 5-year question. It's just a beautifully simple mental model that helps you instantly sort out what actually matters from what just feels like it matters in the moment. It really just cuts through all the noise and forces you to see the bigger picture. Here's how you put it into practice. The next time you feel that panic rising, a deal falls apart, you get some bad news, a key person on your team quits, just stop, pause, and before you do anything else, ask yourself this one simple question. There's a great story where a key employee resigned late on an already tough day. The first instinct, total panic, right? But instead, she and her manager just calmly asked the question, and the answer was no. In 5 years, this one person leaving wouldn't really matter. That simple little reframe allowed them to completely skip the drama and just build a calm, strategic plan to find a replacement.
All right, so now that you're getting a handle on your perspective, it's time to level up your thinking. It's time to stop constantly fighting fires and start fireproofing the whole building. This is all about making the shift from being a problem solver to being a system architect.
Now this one kind of goes against everything we're taught about success. It's not about grinding harder. It's about working smarter by spotting the patterns. Think about it. If you find yourself solving the exact same kind of problem for the 3rd time, that is not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It is a flaw in your system, plain and simple. So the process here is actually pretty straightforward, but it's incredibly powerful. First, you identify that recurring headache. Then you design a process that actually solves it at its core, not just for today. You document that solution. Maybe it's a checklist, a new piece of software, a training guide, and then you implement it so that problem never happens again. That's how you stop trading your time for headaches and start scaling your solutions. And now for our 3rd principle. 1 level up thinking. This is all about elevating your viewpoint. So when you're faced with a problem, the trick is to not immediately dive into the weeds. Instead, you force yourself to take a step back and ask, how would someone a level above me, my boss, a CEO, a board member, how would they look at this situation? And this really gets at the core difference between being an operator and being an architect. See, an operator gets sucked right into the cycle. An architect, on the other hand, designs the machine itself. In one story, a huge fulfillment problem was brewing. The husband's first instinct was to jump in and just fix it himself. But he knew it was his wife's responsibility, and it was incredibly hard for him not to step in. But by refusing to play the operator, he empowered her to become a better architect, which strengthened the entire system for the long haul.
Okay, so we've covered mindset, and we've covered systems. Now let's talk about resources. And I'm not talking about money here. I'm talking about the 2 assets the 1% protect with, well, almost ruthless efficiency. Their measurable results and their irreplaceable time. Principle 4 is a tough one for a lot of people. Make emotionless decisions. Now, this doesn't mean you have to become a robot. Not at all. It just means you learn to separate your feelings from the cold, hard facts. You can acknowledge the emotions, sure, but you let the data have the final say. Our perfect example of this is the decision to fire an executive vice president. It wasn't personal, it was just math. It was that simple. You look at the performance metrics before they showed up, things were growing.
Then you look at the metrics after they joined, and things were declining. What this shows is that the decision isn't based on whether you like the person, it's based on whether they're getting the results the job requires. The data tells the whole story. Okay, next up, let's talk about your single most precious asset, your time. The elite don't manage time, they allocate it. They treat it like capital. Every hour is an investment, so you have to ask yourself, is this hour generating a return, or is it just a cost? You know, if you really audited most people's calendars, it would look something like this. A huge chunk just wasted on low-yield stuff and administrative busywork, with only a tiny little slice left over for the deep, strategic thinking that actually moves the needle. The 1% are absolutely ruthless about auditing their calendars, cutting out all the fluff and then reinvesting that time where it can truly grow. So here's your homework. Look at your calendar for this week. For every single meeting, every task, every block of time, ask yourself this question: what's the ROI on this hour? And if the answer is low or zero, you have to cancel it, delegate it, or shorten it. Your future is a direct reflection of what's on your calendar today. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most critical principle of all, because honestly, none of the others are going to work if you get this one wrong. This is the principle that ties everything else together. You have to consciously and deliberately curate the reality you live and work in. Just let that sink in for a second. Your thinking will never outpace your environment. If your surroundings, your home, your relationships, the stuff you read and watch, if all of that is messy, chaotic, or negative, guess what? Your thinking's going to be too. You simply cannot build an elite mindset in a mediocre environment. You've probably heard this before, and it's repeated so often because it is profoundly true. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their standards slowly but surely become your standards. Their problems become your problems. Their level of ambition, or their lack of it, becomes yours. So who are your 5? No, really, think about it right now. Are they challenging you, pushing you to be better, expanding what you think is possible? Or are they just reinforcing your current limits, keeping you comfortable? A simple change here can have a massive impact. Dawson mentions her husband became 5 times happier just by deciding to no longer spend time with one negative person. That's the power of curating your circle. So there you have it, the 6 mental principles. Ask the 5-year question to get perspective. Find patterns and build systems instead of just working harder. Use 1 level up thinking so you can act like an architect. Make emotionless, data-driven decisions. Protect your time like it's your most valuable form of capital. And last but not least, ruthlessly curate your environment. But look, this isn't just theoretical knowledge, right? The real power here is in what you do with it. You have the playbook. So the only question that matters now is, what are you going to do with it? Look at the rest of your day. What is the very first decision you can make using one of these principles that will start to change the path of your day, your week, and ultimately your wealth?